Once again, I gotta say, PA Works, job well done, and all of the character designs, they look so good. Especially this one. Best girl, by the way. Just best girl. Best girl. The glasses, to the lipstick, just everything about the character design and everything. Best girl. I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. Best girl. So, this episode of Sakura Quest, way better than the first episode. And don't get me wrong, episode 1 was pretty good. But episode 2 is better for a lot of reasons. And one of the big reasons is the fact the chemistry with the characters. I was kind of interested in seeing how this series would keep my attention, because since it's going to be a series focused around Yoshino trying to advertise the town, being the queen of the town, and trying to get to where more people come to the town, I was kind of curious how they would keep the episodes interesting, keep, you know, the watchers engaged with the series. And this episode did a very good job of that, kind of breaking it down of how hard or difficult it is to try to bring more people to a town and allow more people to understand that there's more to this town than meets the eye. And I appreciate that aspect of this episode and all of the little details that were thrown into with, you know, making a commercial, to making a website, to them getting people together and having to go to other people's houses and stuff and look them up to figure out, like, if they can help out. I really appreciate all of these little details that were put into this episode, with all the characters coming together and working together and trying to put in a lot of effort and to be able to sell these boxes of food. And so, I gotta admit that this episode exceeded, once again, my expectations. I didn't think this series would continue to get better and better by the episode, but clearly it has with this week's episode. So, one of the big things I want to talk about is definitely the entire conflict of this episode, or the point. For instance, Yoshino trying to sell these boxes of food, and she has to sell 1,000 of them, and if she doesn't sell 1,000 of them, obviously she still has her contract, she can't leave. But if she was able to sell 1,000, she could, you know, pretty much throw away the contract and be able to go back to Tokyo, which obviously she didn't succeed in the end. In her first quest as the queen, since she became queen in the first episode, she failed. She failed and she didn't do her job properly, which shows that it's a lot harder than you think to advertise a town, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you gotta think about it like this. This reminds me a lot of YouTube, honestly, it does, and I can make a lot of comparisons here. I remember when I first started making videos on YouTube, and I remember, I want to be completely blunt, no one watched the videos. I remember uploading 15 or so videos. I remember they would probably only have 1 or 2 views, and there was barely anything at all at the time, like anyone watching the videos or commenting or whatever. I remember that, and I remember how difficult it was to kind of build an audience, build an entire audience where people want to see what you're making or whatever, and eventually we formed the Chibi community. And this series reminds me a lot of that, of how Yoshino is having to build a community, how she's having to build, you know, a fan base around her, but also the entire town, make people interested. And I really like how I can relate to this series and relate to certain hardships that they're going through throughout the episode, when they're also making a commercial, they're making a website, trying to do anything they can to kind of get the attention of others. I'm like, yo, this is something I can relate with. I can really relate with this when I first started YouTube, and I feel like a lot of YouTubers, or if anyone's ever been in a certain similar situation to this, might be able to relate. And I'm like, this is pretty good. This is a really realistic outlook on this entire conflict when it comes to real life. So I appreciated that aspect of this episode. Now, with all that being said, character designs, spot on. I've already said best girl, but I gotta admit, all of the characters to the outfits and everything, oh my god, there's a very good cast here. A very good cast of characters with some very good designs. The way the clothing looks, it looks completely different from the normal outfits you would see in an anime, which really makes this series stand out. Because one of the big things you have to do when it comes to making anime is to make characters kind of look a little bit different or interesting, because there's so much anime out there, there tends to be an overlap with some characters character designs. Sometimes you could see a character in, like, this series, like this anime series that's in a fantasy setting, and then you could see this series in, like, a slice of life setting, but the characters look very similar, and they might not even be by the same studio. It just, because of some designs, they are very similar, and sometimes the only way to kind of make it different is by making clothing, you know, changing up the clothing, or putting little accessories on the characters, and you see that throughout the episode with these characters and their designs, and how they look completely different from the normal cast of characters you see in a regular anime series. So definitely points there for Sakura Quest for being a little bit different from the normal anime series I often see. So yeah, the second episode, great. It's a great episode. It's hands down way better than the first episode, met my expectations, and surpassed more of my expectations, and I'm really invested in the series already. I want to see more of it, I want to see where it's going to go, and I want to see Yoshino, you know, open up and want to stay in the town. And speaking of staying in the town, that's actually something I want to talk about, which this series kind of tries to bring up and explain, that you don't actually need to go to a big city anymore to do a job, because the way the world works nowadays, if you're going to do an online job or anything like that, you don't necessarily need to go to a big city to get a job. There's a lot of things out there to where you can be in the middle of the country, which, look where I'm at right now. I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere, pretty much. I'm in the boonies, in the middle of forest and stuff. I've told you guys this many times in my Chibi vlogs and Chibi questions and stuff. I live in the middle of nowhere, but look, I'm able to, you know, make videos and just talk with all of you. So the point I'm getting at is the reality that's thrown into this anime series. It's relatable as fuck. I can really relate with this series, especially with the best girl of the series saying, like, you don't need to live in, you know, Tokyo or a big city. You can live in the countryside, because you can do a lot of things. There's a lot of opportunities wherever you go, and that's exactly what this series is trying to convey. So, job well done, Sakura Quest, and job well done, PA Works, for an excellent episode that was way better than your first episode. Hopefully you continue to make splendid episodes in the future. So with that being said, I want to conclude my episode review here. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about this latest episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please be honest in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.